Well, look, here come the newspapers, and we do that in the company of Nabila Ramdani, who's a journalist and broadcaster, and Mr. Christopher Biggins, who I would find hard to describe, but he has got... but no, he's a nice man. He's a nice man, and he has got opinions on lots of things. And look, guys, the two of you, we mentioned Angela Rayner there in The Guardian. Where do we begin on this story? This is front page of The Guardian. Nabila... She refutes this. You know, I sort of think, why are we even debating this? Because if it was true, there's footage from Prime Minister's questions, so we would all be able to run an action replay and everybody sees it or not. So it's obviously not true.
Well, I mean, obviously she feels very strongly about this, and she's hitting back, as the newspaper puts it, against sexism and misogyny. She's being accused of crossing and uncrossing her legs during Prime Minister's questions to allegedly distract the Prime Minister. So it's effectively, you know, put forward as some sort of feminist ploy to destabilise the Prime Minister. Now, I mean, ostensibly, in my opinion, this is a very nasty, sexist attack on a female politician, and it seems incredible, as you said, Eamon, that this kind of discussions are still being held in 2022. However, I do think that it's very important to distinguish between the message and indeed the messenger. I think when I first heard the story, it seemed pretty obvious that some very unpleasant MPs were making these claims, and it's quite right that they were exposed. Now, whether they are going to be fully named remains to be seen, but I think newspapers are also perfectly entitled to protect their sources, and I do think that the anger should be directed at those who clearly made those remarks rather than the newspaper that reported them.
Do you know, I know Angela Rayner, and the one thing I'll tell you about Angela Rayner is she's good fun. She's up for a laugh, she will crack jokes, and if anything she's ever said has been misrepresented, I mean, I just don't believe this has happened. But, you know...
Well, her defence was just perfect, wasn't it? I've just basically been accused of being a female and wearing clothes, because you can bet every single person on that front bench crossed and uncrossed their legs during some stage during debates or PMQs. It's just a fact. We all shift and move. Part of the human condition.
And I don't think nobody, and certainly Angela Rayner herself, she's not scared of criticism. She thinks it's perfectly fine, and she can give as good as she gets, which is also excellent. But I think she's particularly angry at the fact that if we start reducing our interactions to nasty comments about how we dress, then it is outrageous, and it's very appropriate that we should call out this kind of behaviour.
Perhaps she was auditioning for Sharon Stone. You know, there's a new movie coming out. You know, perhaps she wanted to play that part. Perhaps
she feels, or a lot of people feel, that the Prime Minister could have been distracted. This was a weapon that he may succumb to, or it could be a weapon that he...
It is so ridiculous. What would they come up with next? You know?
Well, I think it's with Angela Rayner, Nabila, that she is different, that she certainly doesn't conform to a stereotype. She is an individual, her hair, her dress, the way she speaks. And I do think that, and I find this particularly with women towards Angela Rayner, a lot of women are quite threatened by Angela Rayner.
I mean, she's larger than life, and she does, you know, she does have a very strong personality and character.
She's a character.
You know, that needs to be commanded if you go into public life. You know, you need to have, you know, something about you that, you know, because, you know, you don't want to be a coy little thing. And she's perfectly good, again, at handling criticism. But I think more generally, I think the way females are treated in public life is pretty obnoxious nowadays, whether we're talking about politicians or indeed in other fields.
What about the male running this story? And there have been calls for the journalist involved in this to have his parliamentary pass taken away from him.
Well, again, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in chopping heads. I think, you know, the primary people who should be called out and exposed are the ones who made the remarks, and not the newspaper which reported those remarks.
OK.
Christopher, should we talk about the cost of living? Obviously, we were hearing this morning that it's #1 on the list of issues at next week's upcoming elections. This has been covered on the front of the Express and the Mirror this morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, again, it's the pensioners who are going to suffer. and being a pensioner myself, you know, I'm interested in this. But I mean, the cost of living is going to go way, way above everyone's expectations. I mean, I just don't know how we're going to cope. I mean, I'm not myself, but I mean, pensioners, you know, it's really bad for them. Everything seems to be going up, and they don't know where they're going to get the money from. I mean, you know, it's bad enough because the pensions didn't go up. And so they've got to live on that pension. Some people just, that's all they have.
What is that, 7,800 a year or something, I think it is,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing. And the inflation, I believe, has gone up 6.2%, the highest since 1992.
Yeah.
So it is a problem. I mean, it's bad enough that we can't heat people's houses, but pensioners really need to be warm and need to have food. I mean, I don't know food banks, I suppose, will just come into power even more than they are.
They become normal.
Yeah.
Although they're struggling, aren't they, with demand? They're saying food banks just overwhelmed by people expecting help.
Absolutely.
And could I just say to people who do organise collection on behalf of food banks, yes, the big supermarkets and whatever donate to this, but a lot of people go out of their way in their street to organise collection points, and people are very good about it.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we are a nation of looking after other good people, you know, and like pensioners. I mean, everybody. You work so hard as a person, and you come to pensionable age, and you think, well, this is it, I can relax a bit.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and enjoy my life. But they can't. There's an impossibility of enjoying their life.
And this is also reflected on the front page of The Mirror, actually, which carried out a poll that reveals 52% of households will be unable to pay their bills within months. And the survey shows that 5.3 million already have to choose between heating and indeed eating. So, I mean, you have to, it's remarkable that the newspapers are covering these stories.
I think this hits the knock-on effect of this. People haven't even thought about this or budgeted for this, but it means people will not take holidays. They will not have a Friday night out at a restaurant or invite people round to their home or whatever it happens to be. There's just any excess spending at all will be reined in, and that affects the whole economy then.
But also it shows how our global economies are effectively interlinked. I mean, we have to link it to what's going on in Ukraine. And, you know, stories like this are inevitable as long as the war goes on. It has repercussions in every field of life.
So here's my point about that. Why aren't we more self-sufficient? We talk about energy security, but why not food security? There was a day that we grew our own wheat and corn.
Well, on that, I've just had a tweet, actually, in the last few moments. Bruce Jobson, farming is being squeezed on all sides.
Absolutely.
Sadly, low-income British families are having to pay the price. And it's a knock-on, isn't it? It's, ends up in the supermarkets and...
Well, that's one of my other stories in the Mail, is the cooking oil rationing.
Yes.
Which is bizarre. I mean,
well, it all comes from sunflowers and they're grown in Ukraine.
That's right. And that will spread to other products going up. I mean, and also I think farmers are finding difficulty in cultivating these, getting people to go and pick them, or produce them. It's a problem. I was in the country this weekend, and it was wonderful. Being down there, and it was a lovely day, and yet, lovely fields and animals and little sheep giving birth, and it was wonderful. But, there's a real problem.
Yeah. Could you make, as wonderful as a tourism day out, whatever, could you make a living off it? That's the question.
Exactly.
That's what it's about. So they're actually suggesting from this article in the Mail that rationing with that cooking oil may happen.
Yeah, well, some supermarkets already are only limiting the amounts of bottles of oil you can buy.
Are they really?
I think, yeah. I might be wrong that it's Tesco's, but certainly some of the big chains are saying there's a limit on how much you can buy in one sitting.
And I love this. Even McDonald's can't get tomatoes.
Well, that'll be the end of the world then, won't it? But there's other oils you can cook with, aren't there?
Well, yeah, we do a lot of rapeseed in this country.
Yeah.
You see all the yellow fields everywhere, and I think where I've got family in Somerset, and everywhere is yellow fields, and we buy all the oil.
I think the only
there.
thing wrong with that is the name of that seed.
What, rape?
Yes, absolutely. Go and say, why on earth is it called that? No, I do. It's really foul. It makes me think.
I agree.
Beautiful fields of this stuff, and then you got that awful name associated with it as well. But what about olive oil? You can use olive oil, can't you?
Well, olive oil is the best.
Apparently, it's not
Oh.
I was going to say, apparently it's not the best for cooking.
Is it not?
Maybe for seasoning, but from what
Well, olive oil.
Olive oil,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's. OK, should we talk about antidepressants, Nabila? This is inside the Telegraph, page 2, and according to Unison, a quarter of paramedics are on antidepressants. Now, instantly, I think that must be something to do with the awful shifts that they're having to do and all the trauma that they're seeing. But what do I know? What are they saying?
You know what? I actually haven't read the story.
Oh, dear, sorry.
But it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, in the context of, we've been effectively locked up for long periods of time during lockdown, and it has been established that it has affected people's mental health. These are the pandemic triggered changes in people's lives that they've never experienced before, and we had to adjust to that. And some people haven't adjusted as quickly as others. And as a matter of fact, people are having to readjust their lives. And we are also being told now that we have to live with this pandemic because scientists are telling us that it might re-emerge in other forms. So it's a societal change that will stay with us for a long time.
Yeah, this is the union are saying basically that because of the pressure on the ambulance service, and I mean some of it is so farcical because of the wait people have to to get an ambulance to them. This puts tremendous pressures on their membership because of the underfunding with all of this.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how all the staff, the medical staff, the NHS staff have been particularly stretched during the pandemic. And, they have to be commended for their effort. But more crucially, there has to be more money put into those services so as to make life easier for everybody.
Look, we were talking earlier about stuff that you cannot get in your supermarkets. Here's something new that you will get in your supermarkets. Heinz is releasing limited edition bottles on which HP sauce now becomes HM sauce for the Jubilee, and Heinz Salad Queen as opposed to Heinz Salad Cream. Yeah.
A heck of a claim, though. Is anyone suggesting that Her Majesty has a bit of HP sauce on her bacon sandwiches? Sure. I very much doubt that.
Oh, come on.
No, I very much
doubt.
doubt.
Have you been to the palace recently?
Not really, no.
She's never been at all. She's never been.
I've never even visited.
She sort of lives her glories through me. Really, that's what she does. Eamon, tell me about that time you met the Queen.
So was there HP sauce at that time you had breakfast with Her Maj?
Yeah. Well, that was at a garden party.
Oh, slightly
there's not really
different.
sauces
Well,
out there.
maybe, yeah.
Do you fancy going to one this summer?
Yeah.
I'll see. Put you on the list.
Play my cards right.
Put you on the list.
Should we go to the French elections? I feel like we should make the most of Nabila's...
Why? Who cares?
Well...
See, this is the whole point. She's obsessed with the French elections, right? And I just go, who cares?
Well, answer me this, Nabila. Who cares? Is this important to us here in the UK?
No.
I think so. I think it's important, not just for the UK, but also for the rest of Europe. I mean, that's why we've seen lots of congratulatory messages from different heads of state.
Well, that's because they're glad they didn't get her, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. But, I mean, as far as, it's very much to be welcomed that we have, that President Macron has been re-elected, because let's not underestimate what a nasty party the National Rally is. It's very much, its history is very much steeped in...
But the French people didn't have a choice. They had a choice of right or far right.
Well,
there's nothing else.
Final runoff. They had.
It has to be said that even though Macron won convincingly, when he made his acceptance speech, he came across as very humble. There was no triumphalism there. I was there yesterday in Paris and at the weekend, and certainly the atmosphere felt very flat.
You were there. Was that social or pleasure? Was that social or work?
Both.
Both. Very good.
There was no real sense of jubilation. Let's put it that way. Macron was not punching the air.
So he's got to win a lot of people over.
I think he won because of that picture last week of him with his
hairy
shirt
chest.
undone on the sofa. Do you know what I mean?
It did it for you, did it,
That
Biggins?
hairy chest.
I have to say, I wasn't sure about that myself.
The thing is...
You met him, though. You were telling me earlier, and you can't remember him having a hairy chest.
I interviewed him many times, and I was convinced he was the type of, clean-cut boy next door. And it turns out that he has a...
He has a rug under there.
I personally thought he was a wig.
Like a bear. It's like Sean Connery, so he was.
But I think, like all modern politicians, he understands that image plays an important part.
Yes.
Nabila, let's not underestimate what an achievement this is for this guy, because he's so young. He's still in his 40s.
He's 44 now,
Yes.
and by the time he finishes his second mandate, he won't even be 50.
Yeah.
And of course, presidents are only allowed 2 terms in France. So before, at age 49, he'll be done with his presidential career, effectively. But it is a great achievement. And ironically, he had warned that a Le Pen presidency would bring civil war in France. But it has to be said that there is little doubt that his own France is now racked with very deep-seated divisions, and he will have to address that.
And, you know, when you wake up this morning and you realise, you know, we were all talking about the French presidential elections, and you think, what has France done for us? What has France done for us? And there are
Les
2
Miserables.
words. Very good. Les Miserables. For you?
Oh, I mean, I don't know where to start. Rosé.
Rosé. Okay. What has France done for
The
us?
entente cordiale, of
There you
course.
go, yes.
2 words. Eric Cantona. Da 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 Cantona. Da, da. Oh, it just makes me.
Can I pick up on some of the comments? We've had lots of helpful emails. This one about olive oil. Olive oil is best used at low temperatures. Don't use olive oil for frying. It has a low heating point and will flame up if you get it too hot.
Can I
That's
ask you
according to
something?
Dave. And the term rape derives from the Latin word for turnip, rapa, or rapum, cognate with the Greek word rapis. So there you go.
Well, I'm really pleased. Who told us that?
That is from Brian Cole.
Thanks, Brian. I never knew that. That's incredible.
Perhaps we should call it turnip then, rather than...
Yes, turnip seed.
Yes.
Popeye's girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know who Popeye
Yeah.
the Sailor Man?
Yeah.
He lived in a
Popeye the
caravan.
Sailor, yeah.
He fight to the finish because he eats his spinach. He's Popeye the Sailor Man.
Yeah.
What was his name of his girlfriend?
No idea.
Oh,
olive
come
oil.
on!
No, I can't remember his girlfriend's
Olive
name.
oil.
Olive.
Olive oil. Olive oil.
There you go.
She was the best. I loved olive
It
oil.
all makes sense.
just
It all
feeds
comes
together.
together.
There you
So it
go.
does. The time is 13 minutes now before 7 o'clock. We say bye to Nabila and Christopher. They're going to be back in 40 minutes' time.
OK, time now to go through the papers. We're joined by the actor and TV presenter Christopher Biggins and the French journalist Nabila Ramdani.
Well, let's begin with you, Christopher.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if we were doing a bulletin. We normally do a bulletin when we come back there. I got a bit confused by that.
That's why I don't read autocue.
Yeah, just
You'll begin to learn. Just do your own thing.
Okay.
That's all you need to know.
It's all quiet.
Let's go to the Mail. This is page 10 in the Mail. Christopher, family wiped out by a massacre from the Russian army.
We all know what a terrible situation we're in. But you get stories like this which are heart-wrenching. I mean, this is a family wiped out by Putin's Easter massacre. I mean, Yuri, the husband, went out to buy groceries at a nearby shop. He returned to find 2 Russian cruise missiles had slammed into his apartment block, and his wife, baby daughter, and mother-in-law found dead in the rubble. Now, how could you conceive that in this day and age? I mean, it's extraordinary. And there's wonderful pictures. This morning, earlier, I saw pictures of him with his daughter. You know, that was the prize of his life, and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see the wedding pictures and the children who are a product of that marriage, and that makes it all so real. It could be anybody,
Absolutely.
Anybody you
At
know.
any time.
At any time. And, you know, will it all go unpunished on revenge?
Well, something's got to happen, surely. It can't. I mean, you know, I was here, 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about it. How can it go on?
And it's going on.
I mean, you'd think it would be finished by now. You think it would be over. I mean, what is the answer? Is the answer to go in and shoot Putin or kill him? I don't know. What do you do?
If it was easily solved, then I'm sure
It would have been
be
solved.
there already. But I was hearing that many Ukrainians are beginning to return because the pull to be home is so strong, even with these awful threats and risks at their door, which just goes to show, you know, that sense of pride and bravery.
Well, I think the
that so many
Ukrainians too
Ukrainians have shown.
are doing very well, considering. You know, I think it's a story of David and Goliath, isn't it? You know, and they are coming forward. And it's...
Yeah. Let's turn our attention to the metro, Nabila, and of course, you being a French person and a journalist as well, perfect to take us through, to guide us through this. Metro saying their headline, Le Macron is mightier than Le Pen.
Yes, that's a nice way to put it. We've seen what they've done there, and it, of course, refers to the convincing victory by President Macron, who is effectively the first sitting president to be re-elected as president of France in 20 years. And he's only 44. He's got 5 years ahead of him in charge, and he won't even be 50 when he steps down. But in terms of a simple election result, this is a déjà vu all over again. I mean, 5 years ago, Emmanuel Macron was already defeating Marine Le Pen, and 5 years on, we have the same outcome. Having said all that, he won despite a huge amount of discontent at his administration. And there's no doubt that there were many people who voted not so much for him, but much more against Marine Le Pen to keep her out. And that was very much the message he conveyed when he took to the stage near the Eiffel Tower, when he thanked the French people for keeping her out. And he acknowledged that there's a lot of anger and indeed frustration aimed at him, and he pledged to be the president of all French.
Yeah, and look, huge challenge for him to unite his country. But Biggins, relations between Paris and London, the worst they've been in a long time, certainly 20 years or so. Do you think that Macron and Johnson can patch things up a little bit?
I think it's probably highly unlikely. I mean, I don't hold out that much hope. And I think it would be great if we could, because I think it's so near to us.
They've got to sort the fishing thing out first of all.
Of course, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real problem. But I don't think, I think we all love to go to France, except I don't. I prefer Italy. But I mean, I think,
France for me.
France for you? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it is a wonderful country. There are some marvellous places, the south of France and, a lot of the outlying countries. Side is lovely, but I mean, I think politically it's difficult. I think for us to.
No, I want to talk.
There will certainly be more spats with Britain. We can expect that. I mean, over issues such as the migrant boat crisis, but also the fishing rights in the Channel, and of course Brexit. Macron has made it clear that he was very upset and indeed angry at the Brexit vote. He called it a crime. But I think ultimately he's also a pragmatist, and he will have to deal with the situation as to how it is, rather than how he would want it to have been.
Christopher, I want to talk to you. We've talked about banks closing on the Scilly Isles. There's none there at all now. And I want to talk to something which I know the reaction you're going to get, particularly amongst younger people, which is that they just sort of laugh at this, but pensioners increasingly complaining that cashless car parks are ageist as councils adopt app-only payment systems.
It's ridiculous. I mean, they think that everybody is computer
literate.
Absolutely, we're not. I mean, I am to a certain degree, but I'm not unbelievably. I'm not a top-of-the-range person in that. But there are some people who just don't understand the computer because they're not of that age. And I think it's wrong. There should be an alternative.
There's usually a telephone number to call if you don't have the app on your phone.
Of course.
Which is fine, surely?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but they don't then, in these particular places like Canterbury, which is doing this system of only using an app for a car park, and old people can drive and they want to go there and they want to park their car. They're forbidding them to park the car.
Because even if you do get your head around the app, they then say, what is your registration number?
Yeah.
And I go, no idea. Do you know what your car registration is?
Of course I know my car.
Well, you have a personalised one, have you?
Well, I don't. My husband does. Yeah.
I do.
You have a personalised one?
Yeah, I do. P2CKB.
Don't tell everybody.
Oh, why?
I don't know. Now they know they'll be able to anyway.
Christopher Kenneth Biggins, you see.
Lovely.
Yeah, sweet, isn't it?
Very nice. It costs you a pretty penny.
Yeah.
But the whole idea, just in general, you just use anything technological and they'll want a PIN number. They'll want, I mean,
Yeah.
I tried to put on my satellite dish the other day, or go for a programme at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I wanted to watch Derry Girls, right?
Yes.
But I can't watch Derry Girls at 4 o'clock in the afternoon because apparently it's so filthy and whatever that you cannot, you need a PIN to access
but now
it.
My son watches from afar when I'm typing anything into my phone or on those pins. They're
What the
so
number
savvy.
is.
He's 6 years old. He's going, I know what your pin is, Mum.
But the trouble is, I got a new box and don't know what the pin is, and then it's stuck in the loft.
Outfoxing the wrong people, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
But there's so many passwords too.
Yeah.
That is
have
the other
a
thing.
notebook at hand with all your passwords.
Oh,
and of course, if your battery dies, then you've had it.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
we're so dependent on telephones and you know, new technology to do everything now. I mean, paper is pretty much gone out of the window, and I think for all the generations, it is a worry.
It's a struggle.
It is a
It's
struggle.
a way.
Yeah.
Everything is far too disparate, just too many sections. And, you know, I've said this before, everybody thinks, oh, look at this choice we have on TV and all these streaming services. How many streaming services? I don't know, Christopher, but you end up, you have to have that channel, that channel, that channel, that channel to watch this football match or to watch this film or to watch this new series or whatever it is. People, and I know people slag off the BBC all the time, but I always say you will miss it when it's gone.
What will happen to Channel 4 as well? All a big debate. Nabila, I'm hoping we've got time. I wasn't quite sure what Charlie was saying to me then, but we've got a hormone replacement story on the front of the Mail today, and this is becoming a huge problem in the UK.
Huge issue. It's a very worrying story and quite harrowing, actually. Campaigners are alerting on drug shortages. I mean, there's a crisis of HRT medicine that is effectively putting women's lives in danger. It could lead to menopausal women taking their own lives. And the manufacturers have vowed to solve the problem by June, but campaigning say it might be far too late by then. And of course, you know, these medicines are ultimately about keeping people alive. And of course, there's every right to have to be extremely frustrated, angry that at those shortages. And it seems that manufacturing and indeed ingredient shortages are the main reasons for the problem. And it is very concerning because people are also expressing anger at pharmacists as well when there are shortages. So there's an awful lot of anger and frustration.
Yeah. Well, look, if people at home are affected by that story, do let us know. I was reading so many articles about it over the weekend in the papers, people talking about feeling suicidal. It's a real problem, and let us know if this is your lived experience as well. Get in touch the usual way. But for now, Nabila and Christopher Biggins, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
They're back in 45 minutes' time. Guiding us through the papers this morning has been the actor and TV presenter Christopher Biggins and the French journalist Nabila Ramdani. Nabila, I'd like to start with you. Times, this is the front page, and the Sue Gray report. We'd forgotten about it for a while. It will be due, not sure when. And the predictions are what?
Well, the Times apparently has been told that the Sue Gray report is going to be so damning that Boris Johnson will have to quit. It's effectively a Whitehall report into lockdown breaking parties in Downing Street, and which could see Boris Johnson resign as Prime Minister. It's meant to be highly critical of the Prime Minister for not only attending some of the events, but also the culture in Number 10 under his leadership. I have to say that, you know, there are very good reasons, I think, that why people are hugely angry with Mr. Johnson still. He effectively made rules that he broke himself, and they quite rightly continue to pursue him over what has been now dubbed Partygate. But it would be quite ironic, dare I say, if he was to resign over what can only be described now as a historic matter. It seems to be quite, you know, it keeps coming back to the fore, but we're dealing with an old story, effectively.
Nabila, I can see what you're saying, and so many of our viewers and listeners will agree with you, so many of them. But yesterday in social media, I read a statement from the legendary DJ Tony Blackburn. And he basically said, you can all say what you want, but my sister died during lockdown and I was prevented from going to see her. And it was very poignant the way he wrote it. And I think that's all it boils down to. These people were betrayed. And someone issued the rules that they themselves did not follow that kept these people apart from their loved ones who died. And
that's absolutely understandable and absolutely legitimate. And that's why, as I said, the anger is very much legitimate. And that's why, you know, there is such a thing about a scrutiny, and especially for those in power. And that's what the papers have been doing consistently since things emerged. But I think my big problem in all this, one of the big problems in this whole affair, is that there's, in my view, no obvious challenger to Boris Johnson. And I know people keep saying, you know, we don't want instability when times are a bit volatile, like with the conflict in Ukraine. But I think it's a very fair point to make.
Well, why is it? It's a fair point to make if you're a Conservative supporter.
Well, no, I think Labour quite legitimately want to challenge Boris Johnson's leadership, but they will have to wait the general election to see whether people want them in power or not. And in the meantime, I mean, this could be a while away, and in the meantime, you know, there doesn't seem to be any Conservative that is competent enough to step in.
I think what's also incredibly frustrating about this story is the drip, drip, drip. I do wish the police would be able to do all the fines in one go. We could get the Sue Gray report over and done with this parliamentary inquiry, and whatever the consequences may be, whatever your position is, we could just get it done because we are just all
but I
tired
think
of talking about
the problem there are now 3 investigations going on at the same time.
But the Sue Gray one was delayed because of the police inquiry. They should have announced that police inquiry more quickly, and I still don't understand why they're able to issue a fine last week and haven't yet issued the next one. How long does it take?
No, it's ridiculous.
Right, well, we've
Done.
all done that. Right. Christopher,
5
Tyson.
rounds for Tyson to do his knockout.
Well, £100 million. Pounds. Unbelievable. You're going to win that tomorrow, aren't you? Because it's the lottery tomorrow. And that's 109, I think, million. But he did one night at Wembley and got 100 million to get Gypsy King back in the ring. He was so much bigger than his opponent, wasn't he?
He was.
He was huge. It was like sort of... That was
David and Goliath.
Yes, exactly. But it was... I suppose it was a good match. I don't know. I'm not really into boxing, was it?
Well, it was a good match for Tyson.
Yeah.
6th round, 1 punch, bang, he's out.
I know.
But apparently it was quite boring for those who are into boxing, and it was just this one little swipe underneath that sort of caught everyone unawares because they'd all switched off. Were you watching? You into boxing?
I wasn't watching.
Can you imagine going to Wembley, though, and sitting at the back and seeing these dots?
Listen, I've been at such fights and it all over in the first round and whatever, and you spend a fortune on the whole thing, yeah. But anyway, you know,
atmosphere, I suppose.
Pugilism.
His wife was very proud. Paris, which I think she probably is £100 million in the bank.
Yeah. Now, from Paris to Paris, French elections, Nabila, this is the Mail, page 7. They're saying Macron could end up a lame duck president. Why?
Well, effectively, Macron has won, has been re-elected president for another 5 years. He won quite convincingly, 58% to almost 42% to Marine Le Pen. This is a relatively narrow gap, but it's still enough to win elections, and that's how democracy works, in the same way that the Brexit vote in Britain was rightly carried by a few points, and it was respected by Democrats. Now, the question is, will he secure a parliamentary majority to push through his policies, and will he effectively be able to govern? The Mail seems to doubt that, branding him as a lame duck president. I would disagree with that, actually. I think, if anything, as we've seen during his 5-year presidency, he has proved that he's quite capable to build alliances. He has learned how to create cross-party governments. He's effectively chosen people around him based on talent rather than their political affiliations. And that's why we had Gaullist Conservatives, Greens, but also Socialists, who have all held senior positions in his government. And unelected civil servants have also been given senior roles as well. I mean, his own Prime Minister, Jean Castex, he's not a politician. He's an elected civil servant for a start. So I think that he will be able to attract a lot of people around him to help him push his policies. And, I mean, the whole point is that, remember also that the French Parliament is not as powerful as the British Parliament. It's not the same system. It's more about voting blocs working together rather than...
OK.
Yeah.
OK, Christopher, let's go to Times 2, page 4. We've chosen this story about an advertising executive who gave it all up to live in the woods. Now, would you believe It's actually something I'd quite like to do.
He really hated the world. This guy, he did. No, he did.
And he was
Sometimes I
earning-
despair so much at the world, I think I'm just going to run away.
And he was earning 100,000 a year, not bad. And he decided he threw in the towel to escape to the woods as his deteriorating mental health and form of anxiety, including OCD, made it hard for him to cope with normal office life. And I can understand that. I can't wait to leave London. I mean, I'm now fed up with it. And we went to the country this weekend, and it was lovely.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Whereabouts did you go?
We went down near Bath.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, friends of ours have got an estate down there, and it was just wonderful.
You don't want to know from Biggins who his friend.
Just want to know what county. I didn't need to know which...
They own the county.
Yeah.
They own the county.
I think he does, funny
these
enough.
friends of him. But the thing about this man is, you see, you talk all romantically about that and whatever. I don't think he made an easy choice with this.
No, I'm sure
Yeah.
it wasn't an easy
Yeah.
choice to give up that amount of money
Yeah.
and to give that lifestyle. But, I mean, I think it was getting him down.
It was getting him down. Well, does he say particularly what it was about the world that was getting him down?
No, but you can imagine, can't you, working for Saatchi? It wasn't that great.
You see, Christopher, could you ever see yourself reincarnated in an office job?
No.
And why would that be?
I would hate it. I would hate that having to get up at 9. It's bad enough getting up for this programme. I mean, but, you know, getting up at 9 every day and then going home at 6. No, I would hate it.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm very... with the pandemic we've gone through, all the Zoom stuff, I'm very anti that. And I'm glad that people are going back. And I'm glad that people do like the office life. And I think the office life is enhanced by other people.
Bit of a hybrid, I reckon, is the answer.
Yeah.
Well, throughout the programme this morning, Nabila, we've had this debate sparked by the Daily Star today, which looks at a study that says that men believe that women are worse snorers than they are.
They claim that they are being kept awake by women snoring as loud as vacuum cleaners. But apparently they sound like flushing loos themselves. Now, the story, I mean, the survey on which this was all based looks a bit flimsy to me. It effectively says that there was men moan more than they are kept awake by their partners than women. And they estimate that their bedfellow snores reached 80 decibels, similar to vacuum cleaners, and women gauged that their sleeping partner's racket are just 70 decibels, the same as flushing a loo. Now, 3 in 10 men say they are regularly kept awake by their loved ones snoring, and compared to 2 in 10 women.
Yeah.
So it might just be that women just put up...
Less moany.
You know, I'm going out on a limb here.
Yeah.
I may be wrong. But you know the way you think you look at someone and just say, that person looks like a snorer.
I'm not going to say I look like a snorer. Oh,
I bet you're a snorer.
I'm not. Neil is.
Neil
though.
is he?
Neil is a terrible snorer. And I do. It's very important if you live with someone and you sleep with someone that you nudge them when they snore, because that stops them snoring, or turn them over. You
Roll
know.
them out.
Yes, because it is horrible snoring.
But apparently it takes more than that, and it's a very, actually, a serious matter, because the National Stop Snoring Week, which is launching all this, it says that being overweight or indeed smoking or drinking could affect your snoring, and there are several remedies that you can use to stop all that, such as nasal sprays, gum shield, or even more drastically, chin straps to keep
So
the mouth
sexy.
closed and to help reduce the
Or separate
noise.
rooms. Or separate rooms.
Yeah, that's the answer.
Nabila, thank you. Christopher, thank you very much indeed for those comprehensive looks through the papers from 6:30 this morning. Thank you. Appreciate it. Come back
Pleasure.
again. Thank you very much.